thing to come out of working on this show is it teaches you, because we don't very often get to strip ourselves back and actually have to describe what we're doing step by step for someone who hasn't danced before. Often in a professional setting, it's just so often that the choreographer says, do this, and you go, okay, and it happens, and there's not a lot of thought behind how that actually happens. And so working with non-dancers is such a great, or at least untrained dancers, great way to remind yourself how you do it, and and to put it into words and to describe what it should feel like to do a certain move and all that kind of thing. That's what I found most interesting.
Look, I get asked this question every time, and because one, it's not my show, I'm just looking after it and remaking it for Lucy. I answered it and made something up, and then I asked her whether that was right, and she said that she didn't know either. And I've thought about it. I've thought about it since, and I think what she means is that with a work like this, the process is the idea. I think that it's more like a hunch. It's like she had a hunch that something like this might work, and then through the process, the idea develops. So there really isn't an idea until you start working on it, and that happens a lot with this style of work. We say we know what we're doing, and then we get in the studio and make something else.
For the two untrained dancers, what did you like best and what did you like least about the whole thing?
I like least the stretching. I hate it. 'Cause I can't even touch my toes. It's really bad. It kind of just embarrassed me. And well, what I really liked about this whole there's this kind of in the middle, this level playing field where everybody is kind of equal to what they're doing. And so each of us has a kind of unique take on it, and it's just great to see that and see how people improvise with that.
Yeah, basically exactly what Callum said. Like, we've both got our own individual styles of dance that we do, and we've just worked it all in. We all learnt from each other. Instead of the untrained guys just learning from the trained guys, the trained guys learn some of my style and some of what Callum does. And yeah, the worst part of the show was probably the singing, trying to just randomly come up with a song, a love song with three words in it, lyric land swollen, and there are more than 7 ways. And put
okay,
those
just to be clear, one of the tasks is they get 5 minutes to write a love song, and I normally give them a couple of words that are hard to put into a love song deliberately. Sorry, keep going.
But basically just that kind of part, and giving yourself advice, that's extremely hard. Trying to think of something to tell yourself to not do.
Hardest part of the show, I can't speak for Rennie, but for me is the copying Callum, and because the way that these guys move is so natural and so organic and so complicated that it's really difficult for someone who's spent their lives learning, beautiful shapes and lines and all that kind of thing, to sort of to try and pick up as much info as possible of someone who's sort of just naturally moving around. Hardest thing, very, very tricky, but great fun.
One of the things that I like about the piece is a little bit what Joe was just saying, is that the instructions sort of become a lens. Like they sort of show that each person's sort of history and past experience is literally this lens through which everything that you process, all information, is focused. And I quite like that about the piece, and I like how stripped back it is, and how it sort of becomes a bit of a study of these people. We haven't mentioned it to Lucy, but I think she would think it was a good idea as well. Yeah. I'm not sure why she initially chose men. I think maybe because she was working with myself and Anthony at the time. We were working on another project, and this was sort of a side thing. But yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Byron was one of the trained dancers in the original cast of this show.
Just for the trained dancers, did you have a chance to talk to the other people and see if they felt the same way? I know you mentioned that it was a bit harder for you for the personalised moments when as the
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I remember thinking when we were first doing it, watching Simon and Ross, who were the first two untrained, and going through this period of having like a physical nostalgia almost, like watching them and thinking that the way that they were approaching it was so pure, that it was so honest, and the way that we were approaching everything was layer upon layer of training, trying to strip it back to becoming like how do we get rid of these instincts?
I think one of the best things about this show is that it doesn't glorify dancers. It's really not about look at how amazing these dancers are.
Yeah.
They can do anything, and aren't these guys funny for trying? And that's really not what it's about, because there's instructions in here where sure, the technique is an advantage, but sometimes it's a disadvantage, and there are moments where the playing field is completely even, and things like talking about pets or that sort of thing, where it's about you as a person, not particularly about your physical history at all. And so I think that and I definitely got that from the first time that I saw the show as well. I thought it was incredibly charming and just endearing to watch the guys try to do the dance, but also watching the dancers try to be themselves on stage, which is such a hard thing to do when you've spent all your life pretending on stage.
Yeah, the hope is that the piece does move beyond a pure comparison and sort of becomes more than the sum of its parts in some way. I think that's why also Lucy made the structure in the way that it is, where it's introductions and then it's simple tasks, physical tasks, and then it goes through creativity and into their personal stories, so that you sort of do get a snapshot of these people rather than just a pure comparison. It's actually nice as a performer. I don't know what these guys think, but as a performer to do it, it's one of the most fun shows to perform, because you feel like you and the audience are in the same space, which doesn't often happen.
And you also feel like you get closer to the other performers in the performing of it, which also is something that doesn't always happen on stage. Often you're kind of just like in your zone and you're like... but yeah, just because we are also observers as well, and we watch each person in the space, and you feel like you meet each other in the piece.
Actually, that's an interesting thing about the piece that doesn't come across, is the process, the 5 days that they spend together. I've only watched 2 groups now, but they become friends quicker than I've ever seen people become friends before. And I think it's to do with the revealing nature and also the shared goal, I think, or shared fear.
With the whole nature of the show, you can't really be too subconscious with it. I mean, obviously you're going to make a fool of yourself at some point with it, but it's all about having a go and actually trying these things without actually just being a class clown. But you love that anyway. I think I've had my 15 minutes of fame.
You got to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. I'd take it further if I could. Opportunity rolls up, definitely.
These guys are very natural performers, very uninhibited, and so willing to give everything a go. First day, just meeting them and watching them, just the willingness to go for it. And that's what this show is really about. It's not necessarily about the success of each instruction, of you achieving something. It's about trying. And these guys are great at that.
It's kind of like a revenge.
And because like the way James moves is so, like all the weight changes and everything, like it's so intricate, and if you miss a bit, it's just kind of like
There's almost a predictability between people that are trained, because you've had similar training and there's certain rhythms and things that you work with.
Like the same things in your head.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I could, copying Rennie would be so much easier than copying one of these guys, just because of familiar
So
Shapes and
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.